Hello everyone and welcome to our third live stream. I hope you are all well and you are surviving the rigours of being stuck at home. I hope you're all missing school a lot. We're certainly missing you. It's been a fabulous week looking at all of your wonderful images. I never cease to be astonished by the quality of what you produce. Please say hello in the chat so I know who's here. I know there are roughly 12, 15 of you watching at the moment, so just introduce yourself in the chat, say hello so we know who's here. It's always good to try to get a chat going. I know it's a bit difficult, but say hello in the chat. It'd be wonderful to know who's here. Your images, who have we got? We've got Lizette, hello. We've got Catboy 007DR, hello. Katie, nice to see you. Rachel C, hello. Mr. Ledbetter, hola. Buenas tardes. Other than that, I've got Gambas, and that's it for Spanish. Rohan, hello. Nice to see you. Erin, Lizette, that's Connor C. Doogie, hello, and hello Aditya. Guys, your images have been absolutely brilliant this week. It's been an absolute pleasure. Oh, hello Gabe, you're Catboy. Okay, that explains all. Now actually, before I go on to the next bit, I'm going to first of all run through your amazing images. But because there's a lag of about 8 or 10 seconds between me talking and you receiving, I'm going to run through these images, and I would like you to get in early and tell me the time of day that you took the images that you put up there last week. And I'm not saying 9:27 in the morning, but was it a morning shot? Was it a midday shot? Was it a late afternoon shot? So the ones, Shajiv, hello. Zainab, hello. Nice that you've all joined us. So these are the images that I'm looking at today. If these words ring a bell to you, these are the titles that I've given them. I've got Oranges, I've got Beachy Head, I've got Beetle by a certain Deputy Head, I've got Stones going diagonally, that's Shajiv, I've got the Waterfall, I've got Gabe's Framing, I've got Catherine's Goose, I've got Erin's Typewriter, I've got a Reflection by Gabe, I've got another Coffee Cup by Erin, I've got a Wasp, although I think it's a bee, by Emily. I've got a Daisy by Daisy. I've got that plant shot that you did, Rohan, that I really liked. I've got a dartboard from Erin and Rachel L. I've got a Ladybug and Bobby, which I thought was a winner. And Rachel C, we've got that tree trunk reaching out towards geese, and Shajiv, your clouds. So as I'm going through these, given that we're looking at light and time of day and quality of light, it might be nice for you to put in there what time you took these photos. So by the time I get to it, we can have a look at that. So let's run through what we're going to do today. We're looking at lighting, and just in a geeky way to start, did you know that photography is actually taken from two Greek words, photos, which is light, and graphene, which is to draw? And it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Because without light, you can't take photographs. So drawing with light. And actually, painting with light is a discipline that's come out quite recently, where you actually keep your subject very dark and you do a long exposure, and then you use torchlight to light it up, and it can produce some dazzling images. But that's not what we're looking at today. But anyway, photographing, painting with light. So the plan, your brilliant images, we're going to look at the colour of light, how the colour of light varies according to your lighting source and the time of day. You can't beat language facts, can you? They're just great. Painting with light. We're going to have a little puzzle to do, which I hope I haven't made too hard, but we'll see. You're a clever bunch. And then how you can deal with lighting situations, and then set up the assignment for next week. So that is the grand plan. So let's kick off with your amazing images so far. This was Lizette's Oranges. I love the composition. I thought the colours were so fabulously vibrant. I thought this wouldn't have been out of place in a food magazine, and it looks so appetizing. The deep vibrant orange, the blueberries. It looks absolutely. Oh, it was lunch. Okay. Well, yeah, that's that you've made that look incredibly appetizing. I thought that's a fabulous shot, Lizette. Well done. I really loved that. Nice bowl. The whole thing works really, really well. Now then we come on to, this is Aditya with Beachy Head. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this image, because it's kind of leads us into one of the areas we're going to cover a bit later on. But I thought this was a great composition. You've got so many levels. You've got the sea right down below. You've got the cliff, and then you've also got the wonderful grass coming towards you, and that lovely loop that you've got, which reminds us of the golden section. So I thought that was a great shot. Well done. This is Mr. Leadbitter. I love this. I assume that this is a stag beetle. I'm no expert, but it's big and it's frightening. And I didn't realise they had those purple flashes on them. I think it looks absolutely wonderful, and well done for noticing that. I think it's a stag beetle. Am I correct? They used to be really plentiful, but they're quite rare. They're quite you don't often see them these days. So that's the stag beetle from Mr. Leadbitter. Then we've got this wonderful, again, great composition. These diagonals, and this was Sharjeev with these sort of rocks running across the water. And I thought that diagonal. We talked about the fact diagonals add tension to an image. I think that's certainly the case here. Going on, we've got Adam with a wonderful waterfall, and I love the way you've got that diagonal of the moss, which is sort of at the drop off there, or whatever it's called, before the water goes down, leading us towards the sort of the water falling from up above. I think it's an absolutely cracking shot. Lots of greens in there. Beautiful shot, and it's almost a frame within a frame as well. Lovely shot, very pretty. Adam, where was that? It was a very interesting shot. What else have we got? This is Gabe. I thought this was brilliant. This was a frame within a frame. I love the wood. I love the fact that you've gone for a slightly jaunty angle as well. I think it works really well. And also, there are so many dimensions to this image. The grain of the wood, the diagonal leading out from right to left. I think it's a really lovely image. Super impressive. We go on to Catherine's geese. And I think it's a great shot. You've got something in the foreground, something in the mid, and something at the back. I mean, you've also got that reflection on the water about mid-afternoon. Okay. Oh, that was Katie, wasn't it? Sorry, Katie. Yeah. That makes sense, actually. And it's actually a really hard time to photograph, but we'll get back to that shortly. This was one of a couple from Erin. I loved the grain in the wood. I loved the colour of the wood. I loved the old typewriter. I thought that the drawing in the typewriter was very clever. I thought it was a lovely image. And it just goes to show you can have all the rules of composition that you want. The right place is the right place, and that's slap bang in the middle, and it looks really good. So well done. That is a good shot. We have Gabe again appearing for the second time. Adam was in Turkey. Duden waterfall around mid-afternoon was taken. Okay, that was very pretty. Lovely shot. Gabe with the reflection. I think what works so well here is that your eyes get taken through this frame within a frame of the tree framing the water, the reflections on the water, some interest in the foreground. I thought, Gabe, that was a cracking shot. Well done. And not an easy thing to capture, so very impressive. We go on. This is Erin's. I thought this was fabulous. I'm assuming, Erin, that's a coffee cup if my eyes aren't deceiving me. But what you've done really well there is bring out the colours of the coffee cup, and you've also put that bit of text underneath it, which I think you'd written something about this being retro, and I really do feel that. And somehow it's even the choice of text or font that you've got on the paperwork underneath. I think that's an absolutely cracking image. And again, you've got this idea of golden section of those hoops throughout the image. I think that's a really beautiful shot. I love that. And now we have, is this a bee or is this a wasp? I have a suspicion, Emily, that this is too stubby to be a wasp. I think it's a honeybee. I could be doing you a disservice, but I think it's a cracking shot. I think it's a cracking shot because A, you saw it, and B, because you managed to get in a bit of golden section in there with that leaf leading our way to the flower, and also the bee or wasp itself is absolutely tack sharp. So a really good shot. Well done. I love that one. This is Daisy, who has taken a daisy. I love the vibrancy of this image. I think the yellows are really deep and beautiful, and the detailing on the flower is fabulous. Really nice shot. And also those sort of wild flowers around the outside, they add something else to it as well, like little fireworks. Really pretty. I love that. Now, Rohan had two goes at this. He put one up and I thought, I love it. I love the fact you had the colours of the pot and you had the colours of the flower, but then the house behind it was ever so slightly distracting. But he's gone back and thought about that, and I think, Rohan, this is a really good effort, because I think that you've made a good picture even better. So I love the vibrant colours of the roses. I'm not much on flowers, but I think they're roses, and I think it's a really good shot, and it works well with those deep vibrant blues of the flower pot as well. very impressive. Erin's dartboard, golden section, very, very clever. Very interesting. And interesting how, what's that one top right? Is that an 18? I think it's the 18, where you've just got the top of that one, the double 18, I think it's double 18, showing through. Very, very impressive. I could be wrong about the 18. This is Rachel L with her ladybug, and I'm impressed with so many things here. The composition, fabulous. Those diagonals of the nettles crossing in front of our eyes. The sharpness of the ladybug, but also the contours and the detailing on the leaf works really well, and some beautiful purple colours as well. I think that's an absolutely lovely shot. The second one for Rachel L, any dog photos automatically get shown because dogs are simply fabulous. This is Bobby. Hello, Bobby. And he is very, very cute. Then we go on to Rachel C, who's got the log that is going across the river, and I love the way that leads our eye. You've jammed that into the bottom left of the frame, so it works really well, drawing our eyes towards the goose. A fabulous shot. Now this brings us on to the last one I'm going to show you, which again is light, and light's the focus of our bit of study today, is thinking about how we can use light to help us. Now, without stating the obvious here, this is a photograph that has both the sun and the moon in it. And without stating the even more obvious thing, you need light and the sun to take photographs, but unfortunately it's quite bright. And sometimes you find yourself in conditions where it's very hard to control, and the sun does everything it can to ruin your photographs. So this image of Shajiv takes us quite nicely into the next segment of today's programme, or today's live stream, and that's looking at light. We can think about light as having three basic qualities. It's got a colour, and the colour of light varies according to the time of day and according to how much cloud there is. You've got the direction of the light, and you think about the sun that rises and then sets, so the light is coming from different directions, and that can give your image a very different look. And then we're going to look at the quality of light as well. And that's not about good light or bad light, but it's actually about the harshness or the amount of diffusion that is there with the light that you're using. This is the only truly scientific bit I'm going to chuck at you. I'm not a scientist, but just so that we all know, light is simply electromagnetic radiation that we are able to see. Our eyes can pick it up. We call it colour. And if you look at that diagram, we know that light travels in waves up and down. That's the top one. And that the visible wavelength, what we see, is actually quite a tiny part of the whole spectrum, of the whole wave band, if you like. And I don't know whether you can see there, bottom left, but the red has got a slightly longer wavelength than purple. It's quite interesting. But you can't see the other rays on there. Radio waves, we don't see those. We don't see the X-rays, and we don't see the rays that are inside the microwaves inside your oven. But those are the rays, those are the ones that we're focusing on, and we see those as colour because that's simply what our eyes pick up, and that's how it gets processed by our brain. So let's have a look at the quality of light. Two images, the same object, a yellow pepper being photographed twice. One of these has been photographed using what's described as harsh light, where the light hits the object from one angle. One of these is being hit by diffused light. Could you get ahead of the game and just put for me in the comments section which one of these is diffused lighting? So we've got A or we've got B. One of these is being hit by diffused lighting, and one of these is being hit by harsh lighting. It'd be interesting to see whether at this stage you can pick out which is which. I'll just give you a few seconds to put your answers in the comments. We have, okay, so that's fine. You all get that one. You've all passed. You've all passed the first part of this. It's obviously B. I don't know whether you can notice, whether you do notice, but in B, the shadow's still there. It's just that it's much softer. It's much more gentle. Whereas in A, it's a really harsh shadow. And the problem is, depending upon where you photograph and what time of day you photograph, you can get these two different types of shadows. So that's something we're going to look at as we go through this. Now, Erin, I showed so many of your amazing photographs, and this is one of them. But how would you describe the light in this image? Can I ask you all to put a word in the comments So we talked about diffused light, and we talked about harsh light. Looking at this image that Erin took, and I know exactly why she took it, because bricks are really interesting objects to photograph because the colours vary so much. There are bits of them missing. You've got bits of cement around the outside. You can take amazing pictures of bricks. I think this was a good composition, but how would you describe, not the quality of the picture, but how would you describe the quality of the light? Yeah, you've all got it. So this is something that harsh. It is harsh. The light is really harsh. How do we know that? We know it because the colours have been bleached out. We know it because of the angle of the shadows, because that's where the sun is. The sun tells us where the shadows tell us where the sun is. The sun's quite high in the sky. Out of interest, Erin, this one, what time of day did you shoot it? I'm thinking, I know, there's a race. They're really quick. These guys are super quick. My problem is I've got an 11-second roughly sort of delay here, so people are answering very quickly. It'd be good to know what time you shot this. I'm thinking this was kind of 11, 12, 1-ish in the afternoon, judging by the shadows. But you did win, Mr. Leopard. To be fair, I did notice that you were in there. He's not at all competitive, by the way, so he did win there without a shadow of a doubt. So this is quite a harsh light, and this is something that we're going to need to work at and thinking about why is the light so harsh and what can we do to actually maybe sort of try to improve the quality of the light that we're shooting with. Gay didn't want to be the first, so he let Mr. Ledbetter win. You can't remember. Well, I'm going to take a gamble, Erin, and say that probably this was somewhere around midday. Judging by, it was also a sunny day. I don't need a PhD to work that one out, but just purely by the harshness of the light that's hitting those bricks. And that is often the problem. Right, okay, I said one more bit of science. When we talk about light, the light that reaches us from the sky is a combination of both sunlight and skylight. And you might think, well, skylights come from the sky. That's just a stupid thing to say. But of course, the light gets bounced around by the sky, but it also will be affected by the clouds. So when you think about the clouds, when I go out on a day and I see clouds in the sky, clouds to me equate to a softbox. And by the way, on the right hand side, that's a really basic studio setup. You've got 3 lights, one on each side, and a light and a key light, which is the main light at the front there. And you've got 2 fills, and usually you've got most of the light coming from the light on the front, and then you've got a bit less light coming from one on the side, and then less still again from one of the other lights. And that way you've got this contrast of lighting running around your subject. So those big boxes that you can see, they've got this sort of transparent material, translucent material, sort of cottony type material, soft material, white material, which softens the light. So when I see clouds in the sky, I think about the way that they're like a softbox, which can really improve the photography that you're doing. Aditya, don't be afraid to answer first, just go for it. Right, enough of me talking. Let's see how hard this puzzle is. The hardest thing is explaining it to you. In front of you, you have 12 images. These images were taken from just before daybreak until just after the sun had set. Now, you're going to work your way from top left and then going right, and then coming down to the next column. So you're working from top left and going right all the way down. I would like you to put these pictures in order. Now, also, just as a clue, it does spell a word. Not a particularly obvious word, but it does spell a word. So your challenge is starting from top left and working your way to the right and then coming back to the next row down the left hand side. Can you spell out the word? And so the top left image was taken just before sunrise, and the bottom right image was the last image taken that day. So I'll give you a few seconds just to see if you can figure that one out. And there's the clue. It spells a word. It's not much of a clue, but it does spell a word. I'm going to give you maybe 20 seconds. I'm going to play some cheesy disco while you do this. The first person to win will win a prize, but I'll need to think what the prize will be. But the first person will win a prize. So here's a bit of music while you do this. No answers yet. Where's my prize? Last question. Well, there wasn't a prize for the last question. You know, there are only prizes when there are prizes. That was an easy question, although you were the first to get it right. Although Gabe contests that, to be fair, but this is where the prize is. This is, you need to focus on this one. Here's some more cheesy music. Don't mean to rush you or anything, but you are taking ages over this. Okay, I'll give you a clue. This is quite hard. It's quite easy for me because I put it together, but it is quite hard. So here's a clue for you. The first two and the last three letters are now correct. So the D and the E are correct and the ING are correct. I imagine a few of you have just put a big line through your piece of paper and are starting again. So here's a little bit more cheesy disco while you figure it out. Ooh, we have a winner. That is impressive, Katie. That's very, very good. Let me turn this rubbish off. Shush. There we are. It is de-scrambling. You're a superstar. I didn't think anyone would get it, to be quite honest with you. So which means we didn't need this one at all. So ta-da! There's the great unveil. You win the prize. I have to work out what the prize is. It'll be a photographic prize of some kind. There's a wonderful little book which I found on photography, which will be winging its way towards you at some point. So de-scrambling. Yeah, too late, Erin, and too late, Mr. Ledbetter. Honestly, Mr. Ledbetter, you need to be the first person. That's the key thing. But de-scrambling is good. She had a typo. Oh, she did have a typo, but I'm sure she meant to say de-scrambling. Okay, well, I'm going to share it between de-scrambling. I'm going to share it between Kate and Erin. She did have a typo. You're absolutely right. Mr. Ledbetter was the first person to get it right. Sickeningly, he's so annoying. So this is the right answer. And now you might. So well done. That is. So I did say Katie and I did say Erin. That is super quick. I thought that was a really hard challenge. So well done. This, by the way, these are the images taken. It might be of interest to you that these were taken over one day at Cromer Seafront in Norfolk. I'm going to run through these really, really quickly, working from top left. So top left, 6:45 a.m. Going right, 7:30 a.m. Then 8 o'clock. The second row, 8:30. Then we've got 9 o'clock in the morning, 10:30. Then as we come down to the third row, we go to later in the afternoon. That's 3 o'clock. And then we've got the afternoon at 5, early evening, and then down to the bottom row on the left-hand side, evening at 7 o'clock, evening at 8 o'clock, and evening at 8:30. And I guess you can talk about colour of light all you want, but because we all know this, but you can see how the same camera in the same position with the same settings taken over the course of one day produces incredibly different results. The colour of the light changes. Our eyes don't see that. The brain's a very clever thing. The brain, if it sees yellow light, it makes us think it's white. If it sees orange light, occasionally, when it's a really bright purple sunset, you see it for what it is. But the human eye will send the message to the brain, and the brain just converts it to looking white, which is what cameras try to do, but they don't always do it with a great level of success. So that was the colour of light. Question for you. When is A, B, C, D or E? Answers in the comments, please. Please don't let Mr. Ledbetter win again. When is the worst time of day to take photos? You have 5 options there. Early morning before sunrise, at sunrise, midday. D, early evening at sunset, or E, early evening after sunset. So answers on a postcard, please. A, B, C, D or E. We have got E, and it's the worst possible time. Gabe, you go to the bottom of the class for E, I'm afraid. We've got E, this is the worst possible time. We've got E, the worst possible time to take photographs. Oh, and I had such high hopes for all of you. Oh, Aditya's hedging his bets here. He's gone for C and E. Well, let's have a look. It's actually Aditya who has got this. It's Adam and Aditya who've got this absolutely right. It's midday, which is interesting, which means that today's tutorial, yeah, it is C, Erin, and that's because why? Why is midday such a bad time to take pictures? But it is. It's a dreadful, dreadful, dreadful time to take photographs. So let's look at why that is the case. You're all coming in with C now. C is the right answer. Hi, Karina. Hello, Ria. Nice to see you. It's a bad time to take pictures. Why? Well, it's a bad time because the sun is directly overhead. If you think back to that image that I showed you of that uninspiring image of the yellow pepper, when we had that harsh shadow, and that harsh shadow means that it casts a very dark, deep shadow, and it makes the subject appear flat and one-dimensional. It also bleaches out the colours. Think about Erin's brick photograph we looked at. If Erin had taken that picture at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, or got up first thing in the morning and took it during the early light, or if she took that on a cloudy day, the results would be totally different. The sun is directly above it, so it isn't on one side. Yes, now listen, that's an interesting point, Katie, because actually it's preferable to have the light on one side, because that way there's a difference between the way that one side of your subject is lit and the way the other side of your subject is lit, because you're looking for, and I use this word carefully, you're looking for contrast in the lighting on your subject. You don't want it to be extreme, to be binary, either to be white or black shadows, because it's not a good look. It's harsh and it's not pleasing on the eye. You want there to be a contrast about the light that you're throwing on your subject. So that's why midday is the worst possible time to take photographs. I'm going to show you some workarounds. If it's a cloudy day, you can get away with it more. But if it's direct sunlight and you're trying to take photographs at midday when it's directly overhead, it just leads you to take really poor pictures. That's the reality of it. So you've got to work within that. So going back to the competition, which you cut through really, really well, there are several different hours as they're called by photographers. The golden hour. The golden hours are just after sunrise. You get this soft golden glow in the sky, early in the morning, clearly, and you get the same sort of glow, but it's more of a deeper orange glow that you get just before sunset. And then you've got the purple hours, which are just before sunrise and just after sunset. I always call the just after sunset bit the afterglow. That's my favourite time of day for taking pictures of the sky, because the sun's just gone, but there's still some lingering light, which is that it's far less harsh. It's a far weaker light, but you often get this bluish purple tinge. It's incredibly pretty, and it's just luck whether you happen to be there when the light's like that. So just before sunrise, just after sunset, and then sunrise and sunset, dusk. Those sorts of times of day are fabulous for photographing. What does this mean? It means that if you want to get photographs at that time, you've got to plan it in advance. You can't pitch up at sunset or at dusk and hope to get it, because you're working, they call it a golden hour. It often isn't an hour at all. It's often less time than that. So you should go and case the joint beforehand and have a good look around and figure out what image you're going to look for. Get there in plenty of time. Check your camera settings. Have fired off a few test shots. Make sure your lens is clean. If you do one thing, buy yourself a little cloth to keep your lens clean. It makes a massive difference. Professional photographers obsessively clean their lenses, and yet people with smartphones don't even look at it. It's a tiny little lens. It makes a massive difference if it's got finger marks and grease all over it. So get your lens nice and clean. Think about how you can keep your camera steady. You don't need to necessarily bring along a tripod, but find something, a fence, a wall, something that you can prop yourself up against. And don't forget, you can also bring your arms in to really hold the camera steady against your body. There are all sorts of little tools that you can buy to hold your camera as well. It might be worth looking at those. They're not necessarily that expensive. But importantly, work on quality rather than quantity. Don't just take 100 shots. Think about your composition and then work through it like that. Less is more. Other issues that you can run into when you're shooting outside are getting reflections on your screen, and this is particularly pertinent for mobile phones. Sometimes just shifting your angle or shading the screen with your hand, which is quite obvious, or you're taking along a card that you can use to do it, can make a big difference. Annoyingly, though, it then means working one-handedly, which is quite a difficult thing to do with a smartphone. Smartphones are really hard to hold. As someone who came from using DSLRs that are big and chunky and they just lend themselves to being held still, using a phone's an awful lot harder. So the other thing is, if it's so bright that you can't see the image on your screen, overexpose your image. So put your finger on the screen until you get the exposure icon. It's usually a sun, a sort of circular yellow icon, and then drag your finger up so that it's too bright, and that way you can get your composition right, and then bring your finger down to the correct exposure and then take it. Little workaround there, because sometimes you can't see your screen when you're taking it because you haven't got an eyepiece like you do with a standard camera. And take more than one image. In photography, they call it bracketing, where you take your image at different exposures, and that way you're more likely to actually get the exposure that you want. So changing your framing and exposure each time is also a good idea. Something else that can be an issue is getting lens flare in your images. Lens flare is what you can see here. It's those circles that you get with the sun causing unwanted artifacts in your images. So how can you reduce it? Try shifting your phone slightly. Shading your lens with your hand is a real winner when it comes to lens flare, but the difficulty is ending up with a thumb in the photograph is such an easy thing to do. And you can always buy apps for adding flare if you like it as an effect, but quite often when you get lens flare, it can ruin a picture. So lens flare, some of the ways that you can work around it. Let's look at some more hints and tips for dealing with the sun. You're going out on a sunny day and you've seen an image that you want to take. What workarounds can you get to make that sunlight diffused, to make it softer, to make the quality of it more likely to give you a more contrasty picture? First of all, you can hide your you can hide it behind your subject. So put the sun behind something, and you can reduce its strength by putting it behind something transparent, or you can go all out and try creating a silhouette. So let's just look at examples of those. This is Henri Cartier-Bresson. This is a shot in Paris, and guess where he stuck the sun here? It's very clever. He's put it behind that flag, which completely changes the picture, because not only does it highlight the flag, but it also means the exposure in the image is absolutely perfect. This would have been a totally different image had the sun been above that woman's head. So you can use semi-transparent. Trees are great for this. Bushes are great for hiding things behind. And don't be afraid to get down on your knees and take the picture so that you can stick the sun behind some bushes or behind some trees or foliage, and it can make a huge difference. Now, in this case, and I don't know whether Aditya planned this, but it's the clouds that saved him here, because I think this was taken around about midday, at that sort of time of day. Judging by the light, it's not one that was taken first thing in the morning or last thing at night, I don't think. But here the clouds have saved him. The clouds have actually meant that the light is more diffused, and therefore it's more pleasing and less harsh. This example is putting the sun behind a human, and again I got down on the ground to do this, and you can see that it's behind the child on the right hand side there, and you actually see the sunlight creeping out from behind her head. Again, it did require a bit of creative thinking, because that was the shot that I wanted, but the sun was exactly where I didn't want it. So you need to find ever more creative. It was taken in the afternoon, did you? What sort of time, if you can remember? That would be helpful. So that's another option that you've got. Or you can go all out only if the lighting suits it, and then change your exposure, bring your exposure right down. We talk about exposure, we talk about how much light you have flooding into your lens. Bring it right down so you've got it in silhouette. So those were the hints and the tips and the tricks that we looked at. I'm not going to go through them again. You can pick this up on YouTube afterwards. But this feeds into what I'm hoping we can do in terms of the challenge for this week. I don't know how long I've been talking for. 34 minutes, too long, so I'm going to stop. The challenge this week is to use all of the hints and the tips and the tricks that I've spoken about to shoot anything of your choice. Doesn't matter what it is, but using making sure that you are trying to master the light in some kind of way. What you shoot is entirely up to you. I'm hugely looking forward to it. Try using something I didn't mention actually, is that in your house, have a little bit of experimentation to try shooting from the, if you're lucky enough to have a front and a back to your house, which window gives you the best light for photography and what time of day does that light work best. So don't be afraid to use window light to help you. So maybe you can have a look around and see where the quality of light is better. So I look forward to seeing all of your entries by next Sunday. And we can do the whole thing again next Monday. Have any of you got anything that you would like to ask me? Any questions about what we've covered today? I'm going to put on another little burst of cheesy retro disco music. Just want to think of anything that you would like to ask me. Mr. Jimmy to send the address for the prizes. I can find the addresses for the prizes, that's fine. I picked up this wonderful little book, which is called something like Create Great Photos Using Your Smartphone. So I think I'll get one of those out to the 2 winners there. That would be fabulous. And I can figure out how to do that. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Well done for staying with it this long. That went on slightly longer than I anticipated. However, I think a subject like this, you sometimes can't do it in 20 minutes. So thank you for seeing this through. I will look forward to looking at your pictures, and well done for people being so kind and making such nice comments, for giving the yellow ribbons, for supporting each other. I think it's a really nice little community that we're building here, and I've been genuinely staggered by the quality of the pictures that I'm seeing. And teachers always try to say nice things to kids, but I'm genuinely really quite amazed by the pictures you've produced. I think it's absolutely astonishing. So hopefully with these little hints and tips and tricks you can get slightly better at your craft. So what have we got? We've got you're welcome, Gabe, and yeah, you can use the pictures you've taken anywhere, Lizette. If you didn't take them this week, it's not the end of the world, because it's not. I don't know about you, but I'm walking the same walk or the same couple of walks every day, and it's that there's not that much variety in what I'm seeing. I'm trying to see new things in where I walk, but please just put your best photos on there. And I just want to echo what Mr. Ledbetter is saying. They are great, and you are a super talented bunch. So I will, and by the way, well spotted for actually coming to this, because I realised on the flash screen for the YouTube thing it was still showing last week's one, which is annoying because I hadn't made the new one. I just haven't put it on there. So I'll send you the links through same sort of thing Sunday next week, and I look forward to seeing you then. See you guys. Bye bye.